maybe larger increments than usual. And I just got surrounded by so many people who needed money and to just eat and to feed their babies who are on their backs. And you start to feel the impact of overpopulation, that there are so many people spilling into the urban centers to just get what they need to live and to feed their children.
The major problems, social, economic, developmental problems in Ethiopia is rapid population growth. Rapid population growth in this country has driven the population to abject poverty.
It is difficult or impossible to achieve economic development as long as birth rates are very high in the least developed countries. Education and health cannot keep up, and poverty goes right along with this.
You look at some of the poorest countries in the world, already incapable of meeting the most basic needs of their citizens, and they're scheduled to double population-wise in the next 30 to 40 years. They just can't keep up. This rapid population growth is certainly linked to political instability, resource competition, the global food crisis.
If you think that this is an isolated problem and it's only Africa's problem, think again.
The American housewife. Who has a more important, a more responsible occupation? Wife, mother, laundress, counselor, maid, chef, purchasing agent. All of these are her duties at one time or another.
When you think back to the 50s, the expectation was that a woman would stay home, run a household, raise the children, and her husband would go off and work and bring home the bacon.
I wanted the pills.
I see. Well,
the introduction of the pill in the 1960s was huge. Women could choose the timing and the number of births. You had the means and the opportunity to delay childbearing indefinitely, and many of us did. There is still a lot of societal pressure to have children. When you say, I'm child-free by choice, there is an assumption that you are that way because you hate children or you're heartless or cold, or there is an assumption that something is seriously wrong, not just physically, but mentally or emotionally. When I talk to people about their birth control methods, most of them told me they had sought permanent sterilization. And this is very, very tough for women, particularly younger women in their 20s and 30s that are seeking tubal ligations. Many doctors will say, well, ask you to undergo a year of counseling at your own expense before they give you a tubal ligation, or they'll just flat out refuse your request for one. Often it is, oh, you're too young, you haven't had any children yet, you're likely to change your mind. No one challenges a young woman who says, I want to have 3 children. If you say, I don't want to have any children, you will be challenged in the medical community and in the mental health community.
We live in a sex-soaked society, but we don't really like to talk about sex. We certainly don't want our children to hear about sex. Even though sex sells all our products, sex is all over TV, sex is what everybody loves in the movies, so it's a weird dichotomy.
Well, in the United States, remember that 40% of pregnancies are unintended. Our teenagers have the highest birth rate in the developed world, and yet we make it very hard for them to get family planning in many states. We should be looking at reducing the number of unintended pregnancies by making it easier to get family planning in the United States. It is not widely known that there are a very large number of barriers standing between women and the means and the information to contraception that they need in order to manage their childbearing. In almost all countries, the desired family size is lower than the actual family size in huge surveys, the demographic and health surveys.
Meu nome é Poliana, tenho 18 anos e estou grávida de 7 meses e já tenho um filho de 2 anos. Não gosto nenhum dos pais dos meus filhos, nem desse nem do outro. E pretendo conseguir um emprego futuramente, né, se eu ganhar o meu neném. E quem sabe dar um futuro melhor para eles, né, do que eu tive.
According to published studies, it is estimated that 215 million women worldwide who wish to have smaller families don't use modern family planning, largely because of informational and cultural barriers. Many of these women don't want or intend to use it because they have heard it is dangerous. Male partners are opposed, their religion is opposed, or they are leaving decisions on the number of children up to God. According to the UNFPA, if those women met their needs, it would reduce population growth by 28%, and at the same time would save lives and advance human rights.
Every day, 800 women and more than 20,000 children die from preventable causes. Every 2 minutes, a woman dies at what should have been a joyful moment. And millions of women are unable to choose if, when, and how many children they should have, because they lack modern ways of contraception.
For anybody who thinks that poor people want large families in Africa, for example, then they'd better look again and notice that Africa has an enormous number of abortions every year, and a lot of those are unsafe, and a lot of those do a lot of damage.
We are losing every year about 350,000 women from maternal death. 13% of those women die because of unsafe abortion. So that's the mathematics. I mean, the numbers are out there.
There's so many women who are raped worldwide and have children who are then often really not cared for. The issue isn't abortion. The issue is preventing the need for so many abortions.
I wanted to meet the people, not just read about it in a book, but really meet people and see what they're doing to figure out solutions. That's where I found out about the Population Media Center, and they are using entertainment to get out social messages about population.
Every program.
Population Media Center specializes in the production of long-running serialized dramas on radio or television, also known as soap operas or telenovelas, where characters evolve into role models for the audience, gradually over time. I think what makes Population Media Center's work so unique is the fact that it connects with the audience at an emotional level. We're not just building cognitive information, and because so many of our decisions are based on emotion, not actually the information that we have. By creating scenes that the audience can relate to and characters that the audience sees themselves in, we're able to convey a message and also allow them to really understand how they too can take the actions that the characters have taken in their lives and apply it to their own.
Do you usually listen when you're doing other things or when you're traveling, or do you I was invited to a focus group of the radio dramas. All the women there had amazing stories to tell about how these characters had served as role models for them so that they could be strong and start to change some of the practices that kept the women down in their villages.